Ready for a deep dive into the darkness? Then you've come to the right place. This is Noir Alley, and I'm your host, Eddie Muller. Today's film combines the talents of so many esteemed artists, it seems slightly out of place in the nasty netherworld of noir. But only slightly. Clash by Night, released by RKO in 1952, may have a higher pedigree than a lot of what's shown here, but it has enough lust, bitterness, and existential ennui for a dozen movies. There's more than enough indoor fireworks to satisfy you noiristas. In 1950, producer Jerry Wald, who'd spent 17 years as a writer-producer at Warner Brothers, wanted to break with the studio and forge out on his own. With producing partner Norman Krasna, he signed a blockbuster deal with Howard Hughes, RKO's owner, to essentially take over production at the struggling studio. Hughes's erratic stewardship had RKO in dire straits, and despite ample warnings about the boss's crazy management, Wald believed he and Krasna could revive the fortunes of RKO, which in late 1950 was hemorrhaging hundreds of thousands of dollars a week. It was a tumultuous time, not only for RKO, but Hollywood in general, as anti-communist crusaders sowed rampant paranoia in the film capital. So even as Hughes shelled out $150,000 to buy Wald's contract from Jack Warner, he used the witch hunt as an excuse to purge RKO of many rank-and-file employees, vowing that only freedom-loving Americans would be employed at his studio. Odd, then, that for one of their first projects, Wald and Krasna spent $40,000 to buy the rights to a 10-year-old play, The Lie, written by Clifford Odets, perhaps the highest-profile writer on the House Un-American Activities Committee's list of suspected commies. Now, why would Jerry Wald do that? Well, because he didn't give a rip about politics. He thought The Lie would be a swell project for his partner in crime, Joan Crawford. They'd made 5 pictures together at Warner's, including Joan's comeback hit, Mildred Pierce, in 1945. Now, Wald knew Crawford's contract was ending, and the studio was eager to get rid of her. The Lie would kickstart Joan's third act in Hollywood. As Hughes thinned the ranks of studio workers, Wald and Krasna, not coincidentally, announced a new production philosophy, shooting pictures on location as much as possible, which brought another important player into the mix, associate producer Harriet Parsons. An RKO veteran since 1943, Parsons was the daughter of powerful Hollywood columnist Luella Parsons. The Whiz Kids, that was Wald and Krasna's industry nickname, made Parsons the on-location producer of their films, which for this one meant keeping a rein on the artistry and arrogance of director Fritz Lang, who could be either notoriously rude or coolly indifferent to most female collaborators. Lang, however, was desperate for work, fearing his own blacklisting was imminent. He was on his best behavior as he and Parsons scouted locations in Monterey, California, where the film would be shot in and around Cannery Row, heart of the town's commercial fishing community. As fate would have it, Crawford passed, and the producers settled for their second choice, only the greatest actress in the history of motion pictures. The part of May Doyle was right in Barbara Stanwyck's wheelhouse. This was Babyface's Lily Powers coming home 20 years later, older, wiser, bruised by love and loss. That the role was written by a communist and directed by a noted left-winger didn't faze the strongly conservative Stanwyck. Tallulah Bankhead had originated the role on stage, and Stanwyck was ready to claim it as her own. May Doyle is a female version of a character very familiar in noir, the alienated, disillusioned guy torn between a good woman and a bad girl who ignites his worst impulses. To play the good guy, the Whiz Kids chose Paul Douglas, a one-time sportscaster who shot to fame on Broadway for his hilariously crude portrayal of Harry Brock in the play Born Yesterday. Douglas was devastated to be replaced by Broderick Crawford in the 1950 film version. So here, opposite the most respected actress in the business, he'd get a chance to show his true range. Now, as the story's homme fatale, Wald and Krasna ran through a number of choices that in hindsight seem utterly baffling. Jeff Chandler, Robert Walker, Charlton Heston, before realizing the perfect actor was right there at RKO, Robert Ryan. He'd even been in the original Broadway show in the part of Joe Doyle, May's younger brother. Now let me help you win a barroom bet. If anybody ever asks, what force of nature is both magnetic and repellent at the same time, you answer Robert Ryan. His portrayal of Earl Pfeiffer, a sinister, sexy, and very lonely movie projectionist, is a dangerous match to Stanwyck's short fuse. I can't think of another actor she let get under her skin this way. It's a compelling matchup, especially in the clinches. Now, as brilliant as the three main players are, it was a supporting actress whom RKO pushed in its publicity. Starlet Marilyn Monroe had been borrowed from 20th Century Fox, and RKO's PR department milked her nubility for all it was worth. I'll have more to say about Marilyn after the movie. Oh yeah, this was also the film debut of stage actor Keith Andes, who had the good fortune, or not, to be introduced to opposite Marilyn. Few folks noticed, maybe his family. Now, while you watch, ponder this. How is this film singularly different from any other one made by Fritz Lang? Answer afterwards. Before its release in 1952, Clifford Odets's play was retitled, inspired by the end of the 1867 poem Dover Beach. And we are here, as on a darkling plain, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night.